Did you watch Zuckerberg? How did it go?
And
I
Jamie
was driving.
like, he should know the answer to that.
That's what he had to go again today.
Yeah.
And I was watching right before you got here, and I don't know where she was from, but she was saying, like, you're the CEO of this company, and you should know some of these answers. And she was, like, listing all the shit he didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this is ridiculous. And then afterwards, now they've shown, which I guess it's part of now public information, his notes.
Oh, no.
That he had, like, as references that he was looking at. I've only seen one picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just very weird stuff that, like, seems blatantly obvious that he should know or should say that's different from what maybe we think we should.
Yeah.
Think they should be able to tell us.
I get the impression that this company grew so fast that they don't even know what the fuck is going on in there.
No, well, that was the other thing. He was talking about their influence on possible.
Are we going to continue?
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
cool.
continue. Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
He was talking about his influence on all these different upcoming elections that were coming up, and about how they wanted to make sure that there was no bots that were influencing these elections. And I stopped and thought about it, and I'm like, oh my God. In that moment of him saying that, I realized like what pressure he must be under, what pressure that company's under. They went from being a thing where people could share pictures like of, hey, this is us on our summer vacation. Like, hey, fucking, we're going to go to the pub on Friday. That's what Facebook kind of was, right? People would talk about certain things in the news. They would have opinions. You put up something, a bunch of people comment on it. That's what it was. Now, with this last election and with him testifying in front of Congress, what I'm seeing is Facebook being like one of the most important sources of influence in the world today, and it's not really being completely managed. Whoa.
I also feel like
The Russians.
Yeah, maybe. There's a little bit like Google needs to be looked into too. What is going on with my mic? So Google also probably like they have a data. I think someone was just looking into this. People downloaded their Facebook profile and they're like, my file's 1 gigabyte. Well, how much data is in here?
Right.
People found out a way to download theirs and find their information. What does Facebook know about me?
Right.
Apparently, there's also one that Google has on everyone, and it's much larger.
Cue the music. Dun dun dun. Ooh, I'm not shocked. I wouldn't be nervous if it wasn't for that. That Damore memo thing really changed my mind about a lot of things. Not because it's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, but because the way they were handling it was not. They weren't being honest. They weren't being honest about the science. They weren't being honest about the reaction. Even the way they were describing it. We're talking about the James Damore Google memo.
Oh, I don't know. Was that the sexism thing? What was that?
Yeah, well, it's what he was talking about women in tech. He was trying to explain why women would prefer to not, like why some women are not influenced by it. It's just the way Google handled it was it made me very nervous because they weren't being honest about the information. They weren't being honest about the results. They weren't being honest about what was in they were saying he was reinforcing harmful gender stereotypes. That's not what he was doing. What he was talking about is the science of the difference in the psychology between men and women and why women would gravitate towards different careers. And maybe that's why more women aren't in tech, and maybe there's ways to get women in tech.
Well, you've taken that angle before, right, with women in fighting and women in sports, right? Yeah.
There's some women that are not going to want to be into those things. There's some women that are going to be. What
I
is the
haven't read the
number in
article,
comparison to men? It's less likely that a woman's going to be into fighting than a man. I don't think that's extraordinary to say, but a lot of women are into it. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but it's just we're looking at human beings. Like if you're an outlier and you're a woman who really loves to fight, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I am saying it's much more rare than a woman who wants to, become a nurse or do something that's traditionally a female caregiver sort of a position, which is really common.
And I didn't read it. Did the letter memo indicate like this that science says women were less predisposed to becoming programmers or something like that?
No. It just was talking about gender, like choices and choices people make and why they make them based on personality traits and why things are more common. Certain things are more common in males. Certain things are more common in women, and that this would indicate why there were less women that were involved in tech, and it wasn't some systemic sort of discrimination campaign put on by men. But. My point was we were talking about them having all the information that you have, like Google and Facebook, how much information they have on you. It would make me less nervous if I didn't know about that, how they handled that Google memo thing. Because I'm like, well, you guys aren't being honest about what this is, what the guy wrote. You're painting the guy out to be a villain, and you think if you fire him and drown this, that this story goes out, and then you guys get to look like social justice warriors, and then you don't take the heat from what is an objective analysis of this issue.
Well, I'm not sure Mark Zuckerberg has a lot of incentive to be totally honest in this case.
Yeah.
Either he's totally honest and he's malicious, or he's totally honest and he's almost comically ignorant about certain things.
Yeah, when he's saying I think he's almost got to say he doesn't know. But the problem is if they can prove he knows.
I mean, he should know though. I feel like also part of the issue.
Well, here's the thing: he should know. Now, him saying he doesn't know. What if they can pull up an email?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what if they have access to all of his emails and it shows that he knows?
They did. I was talking to you yesterday about it, and we were like, "What about the Facebook recording thing? Is anybody going to bring that up?" And it was brought up, and he said that they don't record audio.
Facebook doesn't.
Right.
You were talking about it with Google, weren't you? Were you talking about it with Google? That if you were talking in a room about a certain subject,
you've had that happen, right?
That's the Apple HomePod.
You've been talking about something in a room and then had pop-up ads come up, right?
No, I haven't.
Never have?
No. I believe it though.
It happened.
Have you had it?
It happened to me before. I don't know how. I couldn't tell you where the signals went, but I've definitely had it could be a coincidence, but I've had strange ads pop up that are.
I read that I don't know if it's accurate though, but I was reading that people have tried to prove, and it could be people on Facebook's side just to give them propaganda, that's almost nearly impossible to do right now, just because of the technology it would take to record your audio, have it scanned by something, and then deliver an ad to you based off of that in an amount of time.
Yeah, it's entirely possible I could have looked at something similar at a recent time, and it was just far enough away for me to not make an exact connection. I think
what it represents, though, is that you recognize that is potentially in the future.